Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media accounts. Also, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. This is going to be a very, very crazy week. There's not too many tickets to cover because there's a lot of earnings this week, but we're going to look at put the call ratio right now. It is at 0.56. It's really not that high. It's kind of in the middle where it's usually been. Nothing to really get excited about. Now, as far as the economic calendar, we have flash manufacturing PMI at 9:45 on Monday. We have consumer confidence at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Wednesday, new home sales at 10 a.m. and we have FOMC at 2 p.m. in the press conference with Powell. So we have Powell. It's going to be a crazy week. FOMC and big earnings all in the same week. It's going to be a good week. Let's see. Thursday, unemployment claims, GDP, a couple other things, nothing really major. Friday, core price index, unemployment cost, personal income, revised consumer sentiment. So we got some news, we have FOMC, and we have big earnings week. Earnings week this week, we have, let's see, we have Microsoft, we have Google, we have Snap, we have Visa, we have, that's it on Tuesday after market closes. Wednesday after market, we have Meta. And it's really it. Where is Boeing? I thought Boeing was this week. Yeah, Boeing's Wednesday morning. Wednesday before market opens, and Wednesday night. Wednesday after market closes, Facebook. Then we have Roku and Intel. Thursday after close. So we get some big ones. Microsoft, Meta, Google, BA, some of the big ones, and Roku, some of the big ones to keep an eye on. So it's going to be hard to figure out what is going to happen this week. A lot of stocks are way overbought going into earnings and FOMC. I think it's going to be very, very, very volatile, but we can't predict where earnings is going to go. We can't predict anything. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'll just take a quick look at Microsoft. I mean, right now, the RSI has cooled off quite a bit on the daily and on the hourly and the weekly. So, I mean, what I'm thinking is going to happen with like Microsoft, I'm not saying go buy calls or puts or anything. I'm just giving like a observation. Take it with a grain of salt. I could be completely wrong. Earnings probably won't be that good, but they'll probably like get all hyped up over AI guidance. So we'll just have to see about that. So yeah, if we didn't have this pullback, we probably would see Microsoft probably in the 80s or something like that, and then it'd be kind of hard to kind of go not long, but think that we're going to have a massive pop on the on earnings when RSI is that overextended. But now that it's pulled back, RSI is it's at 69 on the weekly and it's at 50 on the daily. It's got room to drop. So it's got room to run after this drop. So who knows? But like I said, they could beat earnings and they could have terrible guidance. But I'm telling you, I think they're going to hype up the AI on Microsoft. But anyways, I just wanted to point that out, that the RSIs are coming down a little bit because of the dump. But VIX is still very, very low. VIX is down at 1360. To me, I don't like seeing VIX this low going to FOMC and major earnings. I think that we could have a disappointing. But then again, a lot of the people that are actually reporting this week have AI surrounding it, like Meta and Microsoft and Apple. So I mean, their earnings could be terrible. Then they could get some hype behind the artificial intelligence aspect and guidance looking forward that could get people excited in the market to go up. So Have to see if that actually happens or not. It's really gonna be a crazy week. So I mean, literally anything can happen, anything can go. So with that said, I mean, I don't see VIX going down much lower. I mean, even if it does, it can get under 13. But we have FOMC and big earnings. Something's going to happen this week. I don't know if it's going to be the earnings is going to be good, and the FOMC is going to crap on it, or FOMC is going to get it pumped, and the earnings is going to crap on it. I don't know. I mean, something needs to happen, and I think if anything is going to happen this week, it's going to be this week. We got a lot of stuff on the horizon this week. So, but we had this like a couple weeks ago. We had a lot of FOMC and other big data, inflation, and not much happened. So, it's just hopeful thinking. I think that something will get the market to get volatile. Hopefully, it will. But this $2 to $3, even $4 or $5 range is getting ridiculous. We need some bigger range on SPY. So I'm just thinking that VIX is going to end up popping this week, but I've been waiting for it to pop for weeks now, and we got a little bit of a pop over here, but it kind of got crapped on really quickly. So we'll have to see if something does end up happening on FOMC or the earnings. But one thing I want to point out is SPY is going to inside down day. It's right here inside, and it's down. Usually when you see these kind of candles on the daily, ends up being more downside. So I would watch underneath 452 under 450. Got some gap fills down here at 443, 440, 435, 430. You got gaps down here at the 423. But then again, it could end up being pushed to 460. I mean, if it gets over 460, this area right here, 461, it gets over that, might as well just go to all-time high at this point. I mean, it's just getting really ridiculous. But the weekly green candle is outside the Kelvin channel. I usually like to pull back, but SPY you just cannot underestimate, because it's had a ridiculous run. It's not really pulling back. None of the weekly candles have gone below the prior week. Right here was red, but it got bought up, and right here it went back and it got bought up. I mean, it just has not had I mean, it's had red weeks, but it hasn't gone below the week before. And I think maybe we could end up seeing something like that, but who knows? I mean, this week is literally going to be a guessing week. We don't know what to expect with earnings and FOMC. I mean, they're supposed to raise rates this week. We'll have to see if that actually happens or not. And the crazy thing is, the last FOMC, the market, Powell said we're going to get 2 more rate hikes this year, and the market shrugged it off like they didn't even care, or calling its bluff or whatever. So maybe if he does raise rates, the market does freak out and end up dropping. Also point out that the government numbers, I'm emphasizing government numbers of inflation, is going down. But when you go to everyone knows, if you're going to the gas station, going to the store, buying groceries, buying anything, inflation is not going down, because the price of anything is not going down. The only thing that's going down is the government numbers, and right, to me, the government numbers are complete bullshit. So until prices in the grocery stores and retail start coming down, inflation is still high. So we could end up seeing the market freak out on that. Plus, there's like major debt news and stuff like that I've seen this past weekend. So, but yeah, I'm watching both sides, but I'm primarily focusing on the downside on SPY this week. So, like I said, you got to be in the room. Anything is possible this week. I mean, everything's favoring a downside push. I mean, the RSI right here is making lower highs, and its price is making higher highs. I mean, divergences everywhere, but divergences can last for weeks, months before they play out. And then we have like elections coming up next year. So even if we do get a pullback, it's going to be short term, and they're going to run it up for elections to make the economy and the market look good for people, for the voters and stuff like that, so they can gloat to the constituents or whatever that the market's doing great, the economy's great, and stuff like that. But I already covered SPY. Microsoft, like I said, not too many things I'm going to cover, because of a lot of, why did I say Microsoft? NVDA. Like I said, I'm not going to cover that many stocks because they're all having earnings. I mean, just NVIDIA is one. I mean, it did pull back right here. Had a nice pullback from this giant grain candle. Pull back for almost 50% of it. So I would watch it underneath 440, push to 430, 420, 410. Basically every $10. This thing is moving so much. Even if it does get under 400, it's probably likely to bounce at 400, being a huge psychological number. But if it does get underneath 400, I think it will definitely bounce at 380, 375 area, because that's gap support. I think it will bounce from there. So definitely keep an eye on that. I'm not looking at NVIDIA for a push whatsoever. So Tesla is another one. Had a big down day from earnings. And look at the weekly. The weekly's starting to look pretty good. I'd watch it underneath this low right here of 256, push to 250 to 245, 240. It gets below 240. It's got a gap fill right here, the 237 area, so it could push to 235. But it may actually try to bounce at the 240, 245 area. So keep an eye on that area. It's going to be pretty big for a couple of reasons right here. It's gap support, and that 250 level is going to be pretty big. But even if it gets below that, it could be like a the flush out. Could be like a what do you want to call it? People that try to bounce it, try to get it at 250, they could try to flush out the bulls right there and try to take it down. But also look at it. The RCT trend line on the weekly is right around that 245 level. So anywhere from 250 to 240 could be a bounce. It's hard to tell where it will actually bounce. 250 is a big psychological number. RCT trend lines right here on the daily at 248. So yeah, 250 to 240 is probably going to be an area where it's going to try to bounce. Whether it's 250 or 245 or 240, who knows? They will figure out where the bottom is and see. I don't imagine it's going to fill the gap. I mean, it can if the market's really, really weak, but we'll have to see if it actually does. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the watch list. There's really not much to really go on. I mean, actually, I wanted to put Netflix up. Netflix was another one. I meant to write that down and I didn't for some reason. I was just looking at it on the side. Netflix, it rejected this 480 level right here from the weekly, and it came back down. Now it's back within inside the Keltner channel on the weekly, and it bounced off the RCT trend line on the daily. It's got a little bit of a bear flag right here. It had a bear flag right here, and it went down lower. So I'd watch underneath to 423 for push to 420. And then down to 415, 410, basically every $5, 405. 400 is going to be a big area for Netflix. If it does get down to 400, that'd be an area I'd watch for a bounce. It does have some gaps right here, a tiny gap right there at 385 and right there at 344. I don't imagine it's going to get that low. If anything, if it does end up having a major sell-off, I would assume it's going to bounce. If not at the 400, it could bounce right around the 380 level. Looking at the weekly, you got this right here and right here, resistance, and then you get support right here where it was trying to get support. So 380 level is going to be a big level if it does manage to break 400 on Netflix. So definitely keep an eye on that. But this week, it's going to be hard to predict. I'm not even going to sit there and make predictions on what's going to happen because anything and everything can happen. FOMC could dump the market. Earnings could dump the market. FOMC could dump the market. Earnings can make the market pop, or the market could pop on earnings and FOMC could dump the market, or the market could pop on FOMC and earnings. I mean, literally flip a coin. That's why we just wait for things to happen, be in the room, and we'll just trade what is based on what's happening at that point in time, and just be aware of what's happening as far as news, which earnings is happening and when FOMC is. So FOMC with Powell is going to be expensive, so I'm not looking forward to that. I prefer FOMC that does not have Powell because the SPX is so much cheaper, but it's going to be expensive. So yeah, that's going to do it for the watch list. Not really much to talk about. It's going to be a wild week, so don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching.